In Artesia, New Mexico, 19-year-old Alexee Trevizo went to the hospital complaining of back pain. She was there with her mother. The nurses and doctor took her in to try to figure out what was happening. As part of their evaluation, they did a pregnancy test. It was positive. But before any of this was discussed in the patient's room, Alexee left that room to go to the bathroom down the hall. Alexee was in labor. Alone in that bathroom, the baby was delivered. But when Alexee left the bathroom, she didn't have the baby with her. A hospital employee later discovered the child wrapped in a plastic bag in the trash. From that point forward, hospital employees went into action, but the child was dead. It was an incredible tragedy and a shock for Alexee's mother. Police were called and an investigation was started. Alexee was charged with first-degree murder 4 months later, but there are still a lot of questions regarding what exactly happened, including who knew Alexee was pregnant and what responsibility does the hospital have for what happened. We'll take a closer look as we investigate the tragic case of Alexee Trevizo and her dead baby. I'm Vinnie Politan. Through the years here at Court TV, we've covered several cases involving teenage girls who have gotten pregnant, have hidden the pregnancy, and end up being charged with doing something to their child right around the time of birth. And every time we cover one of these stories, there are, similar issues in that, you're hiding the pregnancy from your parents and you don't want anyone to know, and the teenager panics, and there's a lot of psychological issues and other issues that we discuss. This one's a little different. Alexee Trevizo, it's different for several reasons, but probably the biggest reason it's different is where all of this takes place. She's in a hospital when she gives birth to the child. Let that sink in for a minute. She's not at the prom. She's not alone upstairs in her room. She's not, somewhere with her boyfriend. She is literally in the hospital, and she goes into labor, and she delivers the child. She runs into the bathroom. It makes no sense to me. You saw her running down to there. She locks herself inside that bathroom for a while. And, people are wondering, like, her mother goes down there to check on her. Like, are you okay? And apparently she's in there somehow, some way, whatever's happening, she's giving birth. I don't know if it's a stillbirth. I don't know if the child is alive. I don't know how any of this happens in a hospital. In a hospital surrounded by nurses, doctors, support personnel. And she came in for back pain. So that's the puzzling part of this story. That's what makes this one different. And I don't know what to make of it yet. I really don't know what to make of it yet, because you can look at it one way. You're in a hospital, all you have to do is ask for help. And then on the other hand, you're in a hospital. How come they're not helping you? Right? There's a couple different ways to look at this, and I'm still confused by how this could actually happen. But what I want to play for you are members of the hospital staff describing from their perspective what happened inside that bathroom.
Well, when the patient went to the bathroom, like, we didn't know she was delivering or anything. She was in there for quite some time. So me and a couple of nurses, we kept knocking on the door to see if she was okay. Because she came in with cramping, and then she had a positive pregnancy test. So we thought she was miscarrying or something. So we were just making sure she was okay. And when one of the nurses said, we have a key for this bathroom? And I said, yes. So I went to go get the key, but by the time I came back, she had already opened the door. So when she opened the door, we noticed blood everywhere. And so I called housekeeping, which was Leela, because at the time we didn't know what had really happened. And we did look in the toilet. I did glance in the trash can, and I didn't see nothing. So I called housekeeping to come and clean it.
When I walked in there, there was a bloody mess, like a massacre. There was blood everywhere. there was blood all the way up to where she left to go back to the room or came from the room or whatever. And the bathroom was a mess. So I cleaned up everything, the floor, the toilet, and the walls and everything. And I had mopped and everything already, and the last thing I was going to do was throw the trash. So when I picked up the trash, it felt like, because I had looked in it, I just really looked at it, and because it had blood, so I had to clean it. So when I picked it up, I realized that it was like a little heavier than it would be with just toilet paper and a trash bag in there. So I looked in there, and that's when I called Lori and told her that I think there's babies in there, because the baby was on the very bottom of it. She had covered it with a plastic bag that had toilet paper in it. She had put that on top of it.
Trying to figure out what happened inside that bathroom. How does this happen inside that bathroom? Let's bring in our special guest. Joining us, Alexee Trevizo's defense attorney, Gary Mitchell, is with us. Also joining us, forensic psychiatrist, trial expert, witness, and columnist, Dr. Carol Lieberman. Thank you both. Gary, I'll begin with you. First, maybe just a quick update on Alexee. Where is she? What is she doing? Is she out on bond?
She is out on bond, and she is attended via Zoom and such. She's got 1 year of college behind her during this time that we've been, and hopefully she attends this fall.
And okay,
but she's at home.
So she's at home with her family and doing school remotely. Let's talk about what happened in that bathroom. What, from your perspective, your investigation, what happened behind that locked door for 18 minutes?
She gave birth, as best we can tell, and as the evidence indicates, it was a birth that came immediately. She hadn't even had the opportunity to sit on the commode when she started giving birth. The child, the fetus, and the placenta were born almost, not simultaneously, obviously, but within short order of one another. She was in absolute shock, didn't know what was happening. The child was born into the commode. She rescued the child from the commode, placed the child in a sink. The child never moved, the child never opened its eyes, the child never cried. And she has taken a polygraph test and passed it, that in fact happened. Later, she tries to clean up after herself, places the child in the disposal, the trash can, and thinking the child had never been alive. And that is still her belief to this day.
Dr. Carol Lieberman.
And then she.
Oh, go ahead, Gary. You can finish. I thought you were done.
And she leaves the bathroom and goes down to the room where she was at. And all of that's her going to the bathroom and leaving the bathroom are all on video.
All on video. We're watching it right now. Dr. Carol Lieberman, put us into the mind of a teenage girl who is carrying a child, and this happens. What are the issues that someone is dealing with at that moment?
Well, first of all, she did know that she was pregnant. Her friends from school have told people that she knew she was pregnant. She was going to name the baby Alex. She even bought things for the child. Clearly she was terrified that her mother would be angry if she had a baby, but she still had a boyfriend. It was unbelievable, but the court allowed her to go to the prom with this boyfriend just not long after. Now, of course, I mean, if
how about in the moment, though, Dr. Lieberman? I want to really focus in and zero in on this moment that a 19-year-old is going through this by herself in that bathroom.
Well, first of all, if you watch her going down the hall, we just saw her going down the hall, and she was kind of holding her bottom. She knew even then what was going to be happening. And what was going through her mind? She was afraid to tell anybody. She was, she thought that the best way to handle this would be to pretend that the baby didn't exist. I mean, it was very poor thinking. It was very, I think it was very sociopathic thinking, quite frankly. I know, we can feel sorry for her and all of that, but it didn't have to be this way. She could have told the hospital staff, as you made that point at the beginning, and she could have she told her friends. She went to as a cheerleader with her big belly. I mean, clearly that she was lying to everybody. Well, I mean, except the people she told, but she was lying to everybody else. And she had a boyfriend. I don't know whether she told him or not, but she was going out with him still up until this time and after this time. So this is not how it had to be. I mean, I think she's definitely responsible.
Gary, I wanted to give you a moment if you wanted to respond to anything.
Well, sure. I don't know where information, because it hasn't been disclosed by the state. It certainly hasn't come up in our investigation. And in fact, we've interviewed all of the that she did not know. And I don't know whether this is coming through the internet or some kind of gossip or Facebook or something, but that is not any of the evidence the state has produced or that I produced in this case. There's no such witnesses that she knew. And in fact, our belief is she didn't know at the time. And the hospital knew. They knew almost 50 minutes before she went to the bathroom that she was pregnant, but they didn't tell her. And that's an admission made in court, and the court has found, as a matter of fact and law, that they did not make her aware that she was pregnant, and they did not tell her. So we've already had that hearing.
All right, Gary Mitchell staying with us. Dr. Carol Lieberman's going to stand by. When we come back, let's talk about the hospital in all this, because that's my other big question. Did this hospital follow proper protocol? She was in the hospital when this happened.
A former ballerina charged in the death of her husband.
Said that she attacked her and she shot him.
She's claiming that he is the aggressor in all of this.
I see a liar, I see a manipulator. She killed my dad.
Will the jury see her actions as self-defense?
Boy, did she have every reason to fear him.
Or murder.
The Black Swan Murder Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8/7 Central on Court TV.
I was doing triage, but I'm the charge nurse. So she came in, she was triaged as lower back pain, uncontrollable. We were going to give her some PO meds, but the doctor said, no, let's just start a line on her. So we put her in there, gave her some pain meds. She was complaining, so about the pain, and we're like, okay. Then we checked her for pregnancy. She tested positive. So we're like, okay, let's get an ultrasound, make sure, you know what I mean? Then she told them that she needed to go to the bathroom. So she went to the bathroom, and they were trying to get her to come out several times. So she wouldn't come out, so they had to go get the keys to open it. And I didn't see it, but they said, dude, there's blood all over the place. She's in there trying to clean it up. I'm like, okay, well, move her in there. I thought she's probably tried to do something to herself because she didn't want to tell her mom she was pregnant. That's what I'm concerned. So that's why we set up to do the transvaginal ultrasound, and the doctor did a vaginal exam to make sure she didn't hurt herself.
So a big question in the case of Alexee Trevizo is the hospital and how this could happen in a hospital. And did they follow proper protocol? I want to walk through a timeline of what happened so you have a better idea of what's happening at what time and in what order. We begin, this is January 26th and 27th of 2023. Alexee first attends school and a 3-hour cheerleading practice, right? So it's a pretty normal day for her. 11:47 p.m., Alexee is taken to the emergency department and complaining of back pain, ranking it a 10 out of 10. So she's in a lot of pain. 12:05 a.m., Alexee is seen by a physician, and she says she's not pregnant, but needed to have a bowel movement and informed the doctor she was on her period. So that's what she's telling the physician. 12:28, doctors begin administering morphine and lab tests are ordered. At 12:51, The doctors apparently received notice of a positive pregnancy test, and the morphine treatment apparently continues. 1:39 a.m., Alexee informs the staff she has to go to the bathroom. Nurses remove the IV, and she runs down the hall. Well, notice that time. This is 1:39. The test results 12:51 a.m. 1:57 a.m., Alexee exits the bathroom after giving birth unassisted. At 2:38 a.m., the infant is pronounced dead. So that's the order of events. But does this make sense? Is this how, are they doing things right at the hospital? Alexee Trevizo's attorney, Gary Mitchell, still with us, and now joining us, former emergency room doctor. He practiced emergency medicine for 25 years and was the CEO of MCare, which supported emergency room physicians across the United States. Dr. Angel Iskovich is with us. Doctor, thank you so much, and thank you for all those years you spent in the ER. I mean, so many of us, unfortunately, have been there, and we appreciate it. I want to show you, though, Doctor, the toxicology report and get your reaction to that and everything else that we went through that happened that night. Caffeine, presumed positive. Morphine free, 19 nanograms per milliliter. Phentermine, 420 nanograms per milliliter. What are your thoughts about the toxicology, and what are your thoughts about the way this patient was handled and treated that night into the early morning hours?
Well, you know, it's very interesting and obviously a fairly complex case, and obviously I don't have the ability to look at the charts and all aspects of how care was done. But first of all, in regard to the toxicology, I think that the treatment at times of patients with back pain, even patients that are pregnant and we know are pregnant, giving small amounts of morphine, well controlled in the sort when you're pregnant, even in pregnancy, and in delivery is often done. Obviously, there's epidural blocks and spinal blocks, and even nitrous is used often to relieve pain during birth. So it's not unusual to give small amounts, to give controlled amounts. I can't speak specifically to that toxicology review. But obviously, there's a drug there also that's an amphetamine type drug that's for weight loss, which is kind of interesting. Depending how long that was taken, that can have effects on neonates and their development and the sort, depending on the timing of that. And also, of course, morphine, if given over a long period of time, can be cause neonatal abstinence syndrome, where you could have to have withdrawal and the sort. If you've been given morphine, you see patients that are addicted that deliver with that type of situation at times. A few other kind of interesting things, just in regard to the protocol as I understood it, it's when someone comes in with back pain who is of a woman of childbearing age, we by protocol get a pregnancy test. That's a normal case, and that's usually done that if you're trying to examine, for example, the back, assuming that you've been told that one is not pregnant and you don't see signs necessarily of pregnancy that are obvious. You've examined the back. You do this really because you are trying to first assure, before you do any radiographic imaging, for example, CTs or the back and the sort, that isn't in fact the case.
So let me ask you this, doctor. If there's notice of a positive pregnancy test by 12:51 a.m. that's showing up somewhere, and at 1:39 a.m. this teenager gets up, is let out of a room, and goes down to the bathroom by herself, is that sort of an unusual lapse of time between that information and allowing the patient to go down to the bathroom? Because I suspect the people who let her down there didn't know that she was pregnant, or maybe they did.
Well, that's the issue. So, you know, the laboratory testing, if in certain emergency departments you have really quick point of service testing, you can get that test very quickly. If it's done through the regular laboratory, it wouldn't be unusual for that to come back with any other labs over a period, let's say as long as a half hour. So the delay in getting that, it would not be unusual to have that delay. It would not be unusual if someone was in terrible pain to give even small amounts of morphine just to try to make for some relief. That wouldn't be out of the ordinary in that regard. There's the issue of how she's on morphine and unaccompanied goes to the bathroom, for example, after being given certain amounts of depressive drugs. That's something that might be of interest to be looked at in that regard.
Gary Mitchell, from your perspective, where do you think the hospital dropped the ball here?
Well, they dropped the ball from the moment she walked in, because it would indicate such. And I'm not just a lawyer. I happen to be a chairman of a hospital and have been in that world for 40 years. You assume that if you have a woman of childbearing age in the hospital and she's complaining of low back pain, you make certain she's not pregnant. I mean, it's a simple test. It came back quickly. It came back on the computers. Every nurse that was taking care of her and the doctor all knew at 12:51 that she was pregnant. They did not tell her. And then at 1:39, they unhook her from the IVs and allow her to go not to a bathroom in her room. They didn't have them in her room.
Down the hallway.
They had her go down the hallway to a public bathroom in the emergency room.
Gary, we're out of time for tonight, unfortunately. Gary Mitchell, thank you so much. Dr. Angel Iskovich, we appreciate your expertise. We'll be back.
Be smart later.
With the nursing staff and the doctor, because they were asking her about her periods, and she said, "No, I'm on it right now. I had one exactly 1 month ago." You know what I mean? And then even after they told her that she tested positive for the pregnancy, she was telling her mom, "No, I haven't had sex, Mom. I haven't had any sex. I haven't had any sex." That was before she went to the bathroom.
And this is a 20-year-old.
She's 19.
19.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure, I mean, my opinion tells me that she was pregnant, she knew it, she was scared because of the way her parents are, and maybe the stress of what was going on made her do what she did, whatever she did. I don't know. I can't say that she killed the baby. I just know that she was very deceptive, and she put the baby in the trash can and didn't say anything to anybody, and you know what I mean?
You're right.
And definitely tried to cover it up.
Okay, so it's clear Alexee Trevizo is not telling the truth to her mother about having sex, right? We all know where babies come from. But the question is, did she know that she was pregnant? Did she realize that she was carrying this child? So when she ran to the bathroom, she knew that, oh my goodness, I am giving birth. This is an actual issue in this case, because you heard from Gary Mitchell, her attorney, saying she didn't know, and the hospital didn't tell her, even though the hospital had the results. So who knew, right? Who knew that she was pregnant? It's going to depend upon who you ask. I want you to take a listen. This is Alexee's mother reacting to all of this news. And as you watch this, again, ask that question. Who knew that she was pregnant?
I'm sorry, we discovered a dead baby in the bathroom.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry. He came out at me and I didn't know what to do.
Lexi, I told you about this. I just asked you, baby, to tell me the truth.
It was not crying or nothing.
What did you do to it?
Okay, stop right here. Stop. Number one priority, guys. Number one priority is she just had a baby. I don't know if she's delivered the placenta. She's bleeding significantly.
Yeah.
I've spoken to the obstetrician at Loveless. They want her out there as soon as possible. Okay. I obviously need your permission to transfer her for medicals. She needs to be
19.
Oh, you're right.
But she is a student too.
No, but you're right. You're right. She needs to. I'm sorry, I forgot she's 18. But you need to make sure that you're safe. I need to send you to Loveless to labor delivery. Will you please agree to that?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm gonna work on that. In terms, I'm sorry about this, but in terms of delivering a baby and it looked like you tried to hide it, we do have to have the police involved.
And nothing was crying. It came out with nothing.
I know. But the baby's gonna have to be taken for autopsy and there'll be an investigator and everything. I'm really sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But we need to do this correctly. And I want to be transparent with you about what our steps are going to be.
You guys have any questions for me?
Like, how big is the baby?
It's full term.
What? 9 months? Nothing was crying.
Lexee, have you watched the news of the girls that what they do to their babies and what they go to jail?
Nothing was crying.
Any other questions? Okay.
Where did you put the baby at? Tell me the truth.
517-836-460.
That came out of your toilet bag. You put it in the bag?
Yes.
In what bag? Why did you say anything to us? Do you want to get in trouble for this now? You could get in trouble for this baby.
Mom, all right, just give it time, okay? I'm going to speak to detectives whenever she's ready, okay?
It's clear, at least to me, that her mom didn't know. The question is, did she know? Did she know? Because this would be the moment that she found out. Let's bring in our guest, still with us, forensic psychiatrist Dr. Carol Lieberman, and joining us now, senior reporter for the Carlsbad Current-Argus, Adrienne Hedden is with us. Adrienne, let me begin with you. So this is a big part of this story, is like, who knew that she was pregnant? From your reporting, what have you been able to find out, and what are your thoughts on that particular issue?
Okay, well, I think there's been kind of debate on both sides of that, from the prosecution and the defense. The defense, as Mr. Mitchell said earlier, believes that she did not know. The prosecution is obviously accusing her of murder, so, you can take that how you will, I guess. But, in the criminal complaints and the documents that I've seen, they did do an autopsy. They did find evidence that the child was alive for a short period of time. I think that will be debated in court.
Absolutely. Dr. Carol Lieberman, what did you think of the reaction of Alexee in that moment? Because as Gary Mitchell said, his client has said she did not even know that she was pregnant. So that would be the moment that she would have found out.
Well, when you see her coming out of the bathroom, if this was a total shock, she would have been behaving differently. And if she really cared about this baby, she would have run over to whoever was nearby the bathroom and said, help, help, this baby just came and it's not breathing, or it needs help. But she didn't do any of that. And the relationship between the mother and Alexee is interesting. It seems like the mother was not necessarily suspicious that she was pregnant at that time, but it seems like they had some conversations about sex or about getting pregnant, and Alexee wasn't being honest with her in general about it. So, I guess one moral to the story is parents, especially mothers and daughters, need to have a really close relationship so that daughters feel comfortable, even if they feel ashamed or whatever it is, telling their mother about it.
And from like real life experience, what I've seen is that the parents of these girls are very supportive. That's a grandchild. That's a grandchild, right? I mean, that kind of gets lost in all of this a lot of times, especially for, our children, that, oh, no, we're going to be pregnant, someone's going to be mad. At the end of the day, you're going to be really happy with that grandchild. You're going to be really happy with that grandchild. I want to take a listen to more now. This is, again, more of the body cam video from that night. And here we get to see her boyfriend as well. Let's watch.
So what did she come here for that she told you?
That she had
She told me she had back pain.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Has she been having back pain before?
Yeah, pain for her and her hips is no, I mean, she was born with like her, I don't know, it's like crooked.
Her spine?
Okay, because my ex-husband, he hit me. He beat me whenever I was pregnant with her. So she was early. So she had some problems with her hips. Like I always had to take her to the chiropractor to get adjusted because she couldn't use, like, she was always getting constipated, like she had to get lined up, whatever. So, I mean, I've been taking her to chiropractor because I always thought, well, this time, I didn't know. I honestly didn't know she was pregnant. I didn't know. I just thought, like she said, I had back pain while my hips are hurting me. I think I need to go to the chiropractor. I said, okay, let's go tomorrow. But she was like in really a lot of pain and,
When did it start?
Like the pain?
Yes.
Yesterday she said it was really bad, that her hips were hurting and her back. And then last night we're on the phone together and she said her hips were hurting bad. I asked her if anything else was hurting, and she said just everything. And she went to sleep.
But she's a cheerleader too, so she's big in cheers. They have cheer competition. She works out. I mean.
And she's been active this whole time?
Yeah, she's been active this whole time.
She's been active the whole time. Adrian, do we know much about the history of the relationship, Alexee and the boyfriend that we saw there in the body cam video?
That hasn't been too much of the criminal investigation, which I've written about. We do know a little bit of details about, she, like they said, she played sports. She was a cheerleader. I think it's kind of common for her to go to practice and come back with back pain. That's kind of the argument the defense has made, that could have been the cause of it. Looks like her boyfriend was pretty athletic as well, just to speculate. Probably played sports as well.
We've got some video of Alexee Trevizo cheerleading shortly before her birth, and it was posted to TikTok by Evan the Plug. Let's take a look at this, because when you watch it, you say, oh, my goodness, it does seem, but it might be, is this 2020 we're looking at it in, that it looks obvious, I think you know which one she is in all of this. Dr. Carol Lieberman, let's talk about what's going on at school. You're walking around as a cheerleader like that, but she's still remaining very active. Like if you knew you were pregnant or you thought you were pregnant, I don't know. I'm never going to be pregnant, I can tell you that. So what are your thoughts about her living? She's living sort of life pretty normally, going to school, cheerleading, doing competitions, 3 hours of practice before going to the hospital.
Well, she was living in this sort of fantasy world that she wasn't pregnant. She knew she was, but in my opinion, but she was going on with life as if she wasn't. In cheerleading, girls are very, talk about each other and talk to each other. It would be surprising that none of the girls in cheerleading, didn't ask her, didn't say, are you putting on weight or, something like that. But, that was a very interesting tidbit that the mother just told us, that her, when she was pregnant with Alexee, that her husband, or Alexee's father, presumably, beat her. So that could presumably, if Alexee knew that story, which she probably, had to, because the mother was connecting it to her spine problems and all that, that could have been a reason for why, or one of the reasons why she didn't want to be pregnant. She was afraid, that's a bad thing. Her father was beating her mother when the mother got pregnant. Oh, so I shouldn't get pregnant. Maybe my boyfriend will do that to me. Things like that. I mean, really, they should try to do to see if there's a psychiatric defense, to see what was really going through her mind.
Okay, our guests are staying with us. When we come back, there was another case out of the same state of New Mexico involving another young woman. Her name's not Alexee, her name is Alexis Avila. How does Alexee's case compare to Alexis's case?
of the most successful true crime TV shows ever.
This is crazy.
Now has a new home on America's original true crime obsession, 48 Hours on Court TV. Coming up next on Court TV.
It was a real whodunit kind of case.
His wife, Rebecca, began to have an affair.
He said, make sure you got eyes behind your head. I'll get you sooner or later.
Accomplice to Murder with Vinnie Politan. Sunday night, 8, 7 Central. Only on Court TV.
I'm sorry. He came out and I didn't know what to do.
Lexi, I told you about this.
But
I just asked you, baby, to tell me the truth.
Scared. It was not crying or nothing.
As soon as this case happened in New Mexico, it reminded a lot of us of another case out of New Mexico. So you have Alexee Trevizo in the hospital, but you had Alexis Avila, whose child was alive. And you're never going to forget this surveillance video of Alexis pulling up to these dumpsters outside of a store. This is surveillance video, super clear surveillance video. Pulling up in her car and stops right by the dumpsters. Now watch what happens. It's not easy to watch, but the good news is the baby survived. So as this is happening, as this child inside this bag is being tossed like garbage away, that child survived. So how did that child survive? Well, there were some folks who were hanging out in the back of that parking lot one night, and they came across the child, and they found the child, they saved the child, and they called 911. Do we have the 911 call?
He's still got his invisible cord, and he's freezing cold, and he's very, he's drained, he's very, very, very weak.
Okay. Do you have him wrapped in a blanket and the heater on?
I got him in my jacket.
Amazing. Alexis went to trial. She lost in April of 2023, 18 years in prison for attempted murder of the child. The case of Alexee is an actual murder case. Let's bring back in our guests. Still with us, Dr. Carol Lieberman and Adrienne Hedden, who's a senior reporter at the Carlsbad Current-Argus. So, Adrienne, can you give us a rundown of what's happening with the case right now as we get ready for the trial of Alexee Trevizo? Alexis found guilty 18 years. What's the case of Alexee going to look like?
Well, that other case, that was over the next town over from Carlsbad and Artesia in Hobbs, New Mexico. And yeah, like I think you mentioned, similar kind of social issues at play. Teenage mothers that have appeared to abandon their children. So the trial for Alexee Trevizo is scheduled to start in August 26th, I believe, in Eddy County District Court here in Carlsbad. So the trial date is set right now. The defense has introduced motions to suppress a lot of the evidence gained from the hospital, arguing there was some patient doctor confidentiality issues with the statements that she had made. And a district judge had actually ruled to suppress those statements, that they couldn't be admitted in the case. The Fifth Judicial District Attorney's Office has appealed that ruling to the New Mexico Supreme Court. We are waiting to hear, what the ruling will be there, if that evidence will be brought back into the case before it goes to trial next month.
And that's the evidence we're looking at right now. Dr. Carol Lieberman, comparing these two cases and these two young women, it seems the issues may be similar, right? You're young, you don't know what to do, but it continues to happen over and over again. Why is that? And in this day and age, there's a lot of information out there, and there are laws that are set up where children can be dropped safely in places, yes, and there's no penalty for it.
Yes, including in New Mexico, apparently. And her mother saying, I told you about this. I mean, you have to wonder if she even knew about this other case. But, there are a lot of similarities in the sense that the Alexis the one that you were just talking about, she, she brought her baby to the dumpster, and that baby would have died. The judge said, but for the grace of God and luck, this would be a murder case. So now we have Alexee Trevizo, and she could have, her baby. The prosecutors have shown through presumably autopsy and pathologists and so on that the baby did breathe. It was alive when it was born, and perhaps if she would have run out of the bathroom and said, "Please help," perhaps they could have, before she did whatever she did to it, perhaps they could have saved the baby. So, this hopefully, this is going to be influencing a lot of people, a lot of teenagers who find themselves in the same situation, which is why it's important that, I may have sounded heartless, but it's important that people get punished for doing the wrong thing, because this is going to, it'll make other teen girls think, oh, well, if I get pregnant and it's not good, it's not convenient, or my mommy will get angry at me, I'll just, strangle it, or I'll just do something to make it go away. And not both cases were bad, but obviously it's better if the baby doesn't die.
Absolutely. And you wonder how different this would be even if the child couldn't be saved, if she comes out of that bathroom looking for help. And I think that's one of the big issues for this case. Adrian, you have any sense of the community reaction to these stories and where folks are kind of falling on this? Because, it can be looked at a couple different ways, especially the case of Alexee.
Yeah, obviously they're both extremely shocking to the community. Artesia, Hobbs, or, Southeast New Mexico is a rural, conservative area. People are pretty shocked by these kinds of things, pretty upset about them. I think that, just looking at and I don't mean to just kind it off as just page views, but, there was a lot of interest in our second story in the case when Alexee Trevizo was released from jail ahead of the trial. That really seemed to stir people up. I think people are, and like a lot of the guests on the show have, really sort of pushed to sort of vilify these people. Whether or not they're truly guilty of murder or attempted murder, that'll be borne out in court. But definitely a very scary issue.
And we've covered trials like this, and juries react in different ways, and a lot of it usually depends upon the young woman or the teenager, how they present themselves in court and what they say and how they look, and that's going to be a big issue in this case. I think the bottom line, though, Dr. Carol Lieberman, I want to go back to, and we don't have any more time, but grandparents, we love our children's children more than our children sometimes, right? Especially in those moments, right? And obviously we don't love them more, we love them all the same, but if anyone's watching and if anyone hears me, don't be afraid to tell your parents. There'll be a moment of shock, I get it, but there's going to be years of joy together. Dr. Carol Lieberman, Adrian Hedden, thank you so much for helping us out tonight. I really appreciate your time tonight, and we'll be speaking again as we get closer to August in this case. Okay, before we go tonight, speaking of children, we have a missing child tonight, Donovan Carvalho. Donovan is 16 years old. He's missing since July 17th out of Placentia, California. If you see Donovan, take a look at his face. If you see him, pick up the phone, make the call. 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Placentia Police Department in California. That phone number's on the screen. Let's see if we can get Donovan to a safe place tonight. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you for watching. Have a great night. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.